As a user of SharePoint, I have deleted files in the past, and then at a time in the future I thought, you know what, I actually need that file back, only to realise that the 93 days that I have to go and restore that file out of my recycle bin has elapsed. Once I've gone over those 93 days, I cannot get that file back. So today we are going to look at how we can use Power Automate to look at the recycle bin and understand what files are in there, what is about to be deleted, and help us to take corrective action before it's too late. My name's Matt Weston. I'm a Microsoft MVP in business applications, and I love automation, and especially automation when it comes to my first love, which is SharePoint. I'm also the CEO of a company called Vantage 365. We are Microsoft 365 specialists here in the UK. Now, before I get going, I just want to give a real big thank you to Lee Fitzgerald for the inspiration for this video. So I really hope this is useful for you, Lee, and also helpful for everybody else. So let's talk a little bit about SharePoint in the first place. So inside SharePoint, when we delete a file from a library, if we delete a list item from a list, if we actually delete a full-blown document library or SharePoint list, it goes into a recycle bin. Now the recycle bin allows us to take corrective action, i.e. restore it again, as long as we remember that we've deleted it in the first place, within 93 days. After those 93 days, it disappears outside of the recycle bin and goes somewhere into Microsoft land. Now, there is a possibility that Microsoft can restore it for a certain number of days after it disappears out of your recycle bin. But if I'm completely honest, we've had 3 months already. If we haven't realised and taken corrective action in that, then we shouldn't really be relying on Microsoft to do that in the first place. Now, unless we've got a backup solution which is taking care of our backups and we can go back and restore that file from a backup solution, then we're fine. But otherwise, it would be really good if we had a notification to tell us that our files are about to be deleted. Now, at the moment in SharePoint, that does not exist. But the good news is that we can use Power Automate to go and interrogate a recycle bin and alert us or alert our users as to when those files are about to be deleted. So here on the screen at the moment, I have our recycle bin. Now the recycle bin, currently this is accessed by clicking on recycle bin on my navigation menu. This is my end user recycle bin. So here, this is a combination of my files. It's also a combination of files that somebody else has deleted. And ultimately, this is where my everything goes in the first instance, and it will sit here for 93 days. It may be that some of those files have been deleted and have gone to a second level recycle bin. They've gone to an administrator's recycle bin. So that's all accessed from here. But what I'm really interested in is, certainly in the first instance, what have I got sat in here? Now, when we come into Power Automate, as soon as we start to think about working with SharePoint, the first thing we think is we can use the SharePoint connector. Now, the SharePoint connector has a huge number of different actions in here that we could start to utilize. Now, if we think about what a recycle bin is, we could be forgiven to just think it's just another library. But if I come and let's go and interrogate the recycle bin and see if we can use the get files. So I'm just going to use get files properties only, which is usually for interrogating document libraries. So let's go and select the drop down. No, it doesn't appear in there. Can I type it in manually? So let's go for recycle bin, because that's the name of what it is. If I go and press save, it will error to say actually it can't find it, and the exact same result, it will be the exact same result if I was to go and try and put it in there without a space. It doesn't have an ID that I can go and use to put in there either. So I have to look at different ways of being able to get to that information. Now, it is possible to get there, but we just have to step away a little bit initially from the low code approach, or the no code approach I should say, and actually go a little bit more low codey, a little bit more devy. So let's go back to my SharePoint connector. Now in my SharePoint connector, I have a really useful action, which is to send a HTTP request to SharePoint. Now ultimately, if the out-of-the-box actions that we have for SharePoint don't work, or it doesn't give us the option to do what we want to do, this is the key to unlocking it. This is how we get around it. Because we can use what's called the SharePoint REST API, which is all of the programmatic ways of interacting with SharePoint in the first place. We can utilize those inside Power Automate, and we can then get that data back and we can do something with it. So I'm going to come into my site address. Let's just go and reconfigure that to my training. And I'm going to use a get method because I want the data to come back from the API to me. So let's use a get. And then I need to type in the URI. So this is what follows the web URL here, /sites/training. So in this case, what's going to follow it is going to be API, because we are telling SharePoint we want to interact with its REST API. I then need to tell it which part of the API I want it to connect to. Is it going to be the web, i.e. is it something that the end user can connect to? So it's going to look at what the end user part is, or is it going to connect to site? So if I wanted to connect to the web part as an example, and I'll show both this and also site, and we'll explore the difference in a moment. And I just type in recycle bin here. So this is going to give me API web recycle bin. This is going to give me some information back. Let's hit save on there. Let's press test. And let's just go and run this test. And run the flow. Okay, so that has returned some data to me. And it's returned some items. Okay, so we'll explore the difference in terms of the URI in terms of a small change we can make in a moment. But what I want to do is make this usable. So in order to make this usable, I want to go across into VS Code. Now, the reason I'm going to use VS Code, I'll explain in a moment. It just means it becomes much more visual in terms of how we use this data. Because if I look at the show raw outputs as an example, you know what, this isn't particularly clear and not the easiest to work with just in this state. I mean, ultimately, what it does show me is that it's getting data back. So I'm just going to Control A to highlight all of that, and then Control C it to copy it to my clipboard. I'm now going to switch to VS Code, and I'm just going to create a brand new page in here. Now, when I use VS Code, the first thing I do is select a language. So the reason why I select a language is because it has a specific formatting configuration for JSON. JSON is the underlying language that makes everything work in Power Automate. And effectively, what I've just copied to my clipboard is JSON. So if I now go and paste that into here, I can now now colorizes it so I can see where things are. If I click next to a character, it will show me where the opening character is and where the closing character is. So it means that I can manage this data and read this data much more effectively. So let's scroll back up. Now, this is everything that we got from the HTTP request. Now, I'm not interested in, to be honest, most of this. What I am interested in, I'm not interested in the headers, I'm interested in what's inside the body. But what I'm really interested in is the results inside the body. So inside the hierarchy that we've got the body, we've got D for data, and then we've got our results. And then what follows the results is this square bracket here. Now what this delineates is it's bringing back an array. It's bringing back several rows of data that I can then work with. And each one of those rows starts with a curly brace or parentheses. And ultimately, I can then see in here that I've got an author email, I've got an author name, I've got who it was deleted by, when it was deleted. You know what, that's going to be really useful in a minute. I've also got in here the actual name of the file itself, the title of it. So there's a lot of really good, useful information in here. But I need to make this usable inside Power Automate in a way that I can then carry on using the no-code approach, i.e. make it into dynamic content. Because very quickly to show, if I add a compose in here, all I get back from my HTTP request by default is the body. I get the whole lot of this. That's not what I want. I want to be able to have dynamic content for the email and the dates and all that sort of great stuff. So to do that, I'm going to click at the start of this square bracket here. Now, what this will allow me to do is I can now see where this is. And if I scroll right the way down to the bottom, it will actually highlight where the close is. So I know that if I highlight to the end of that or after that square bracket, I have got the whole array that I can now use. What's also really useful is, let's scroll back up to the top again. If it's quite a big array, then I can start to shrink these down by clicking on the collapse icons here. So it makes the whole interacting with JSON a little bit nicer. But I've copied it all to my clipboard already. Let's go back into Power Automate. Now, if I go and add an action before my compose now, I have an action inside Power Automate called Parse JSON. It's part of the data operation connector. Now, what that will allow me to do is take a JSON output from a previous action, i.e. the HTTP request, and parse it, so actually read it and make it usable as dynamic content. Now, what it's asking for here are two things. It's asking for the content. I'll fill that in a moment. That is how are we going to feed the data into this? And then the schema, how do we translate it into something usable? Now, I don't expect anybody, even pro coders, to go and write their own JSON schemas. So we have this generate from sample button at the bottom of the screen. This is really useful because in there I can paste in the entire array that I've just taken from VS Code. And when I press done, it will then create this lovely, lovely, lovely schema for me. Yeah, I don't really fancy writing those even now after all the years that I've been working with this. So now I know how to translate it. I now need to tell it what I want to translate. Now, if I select body from here to start off with, that is going to take, let's go back to VS Code. It's going to take everything that sits inside this squiggly bracket here, which it means that it's going to bring D, it's going to bring all of my results and everything out, anything else that might come out of that particular web request. Now, I don't want that. I don't want just the body. I don't want just D. I want what's inside results. So we can, again, I'm just going to put a couple of carriage returns in here because I'm going to use VS Code very quickly to build out an expression to be able to get just what's in this array. So with my cursor inside the content, I've still put body in there. I'm going to press Control A on there to highlight it and then Control C to copy it to my clipboard. Then if I come back to VS Code, let's paste it in. Okay, and now I can see that I've got effectively the expression that sits behind that dynamic content. Now, in order for me to take this back as an expression, because otherwise it won't be recognized, I have to get rid of that final squiggly bracket. I have to get rid of the @ symbol and the start squiggly bracket. So now I'm just left with, let's just zoom in a little bit more on this if I can. So now I'm left with the body, send a HTTP request to SharePoint. That is the name of the action where the body is coming from. But what I want is to go to the next hierarchy down. So let's traverse down one level. So let's put a question mark in there to go down one level and the square brackets. And the, now in single quotes, put a D. And the case has to match perfectly. It is case sensitive. So I've gone from the body to D. So I'm now at this level. But I want to go one more. I want what's inside results. So let's go down one more level. Let's put a question mark. And inside my square brackets and my single quotes, results. So now, what I'm feeding in is not the body, not D, but I'm actually coming right the way down to this level and I'm just going to feed it whatever the array is here. Let's just copy that. And let's take that now out of the content, switch to my expression editor and paste that in. And let's press OK. So what we'll see now is when I come back to my compose now, when I click there, I've now got outputs from my parse JSON. And what I've got, if I scroll down, I've got my deleted by email, my deleted by name, deleted date, and so on. I've got dynamic content that I can now use effectively inside my flows. So let's go and select the title. And because it's parsing an array, it's going to go into a loop, which is fine. Let's go into apply to each. Let's go for the recycle bin item. And let's just rename that because that is the name of the file. Okay, I'm going to add one more compose on here, which is who it was deleted by. Okay, and I could carry on doing that as I need to. I can pull as much information out of there as possible as I need. I could go and put a Teams message or an email into there to say send this email to the person who deleted it or to the person who created the file in the first place to say go and double check to make sure that you don't need this file before it gets deleted after 93 days. So we're almost there. Let's just go and do a test. And away we go again. So I've got my recurrence. It's going to kick off as many times as I want it to in the week or the month or whatever it might be. It's gone to SharePoint. It's got the information. It's gone through the parse JSON and it's passed the information in. It's passed the array in. And what's come out of it is a loop which has got 8 items in here. So it's got the name of the file and who it was deleted by. Okay, so the interesting thing now is, if I go back to my recycle bin, let's just check how many items we've got in here. So I've got 10 items in... I've got 10 items in my recycle bin. But my flow only says that I've got 8. So what is the reason for that? Now, the reason for this is because when I call the recycle bin as this user using the web API, as in using the /API/web recycle bin, it will only show the files that I have deleted. And let's just prove it. Let's just go through. So I've also got files that were deleted by Judy. So if I go down, let's just shrink that down. So let's just change that for deleted by name, not the whole deleted by. Let's just do one more quick test just to make sure that we're going to see this. And what we'll see is that all of the files that come out are just deleted by me. So we've still only got 8 items. That's looking better. So we've got deleted by Matt Weston, me. Okay, they're all deleted by me. So, if I am creating this as an admin, it may be that I want to see everybody's. If it's just I'm creating it for me and I'm only interested in the files that I've deleted, you know what, happy days, this will work. We are now done. But as an admin, let's go and change the web. Let's go to the next level up. Let's go and do the site recycle bin. Now, for me to use this, I need to be the owner. I need to have ownership rights over the site. But let's go and run the test this time. And let's see if we get a different result. So now I've got 10 items in my loop. And now if again, let's just flick through. Let's just prove that this is... going to bring them back. Still me. Still me. Okay, and there we go. So we've now got some files that have been deleted by Judy. So switching to the site will allow me then to interrogate the whole recycle, but it will allow me to see everything that has been deleted by all users, not just me. So we're almost, to be honest, we're almost there. We've got the files coming out, we've got the information coming out, and we've also been able to identify who the users are that have deleted it or who the users are that have created it. But if we've got a very, very big recycle bin, maybe it's a very, very busy site, there's lots of files that are constantly being deleted. If we are just using the API request in the way that we are using it right now, you know what, that's going to be a really inefficient flow, because it means that we are going to be constantly pulling as much out as what SharePoint's going to give us, and we're going to just be iterating through the same things time and time again. So it may be that we want to be a little bit more intelligent with how we use this. Now, because this is a web request, we can provide additional parameters into this request to specify the information that we want. Not just SharePoint, give me everything. Actually, we can be a lot more explicit. Now, the way that we do that is by using the question mark. We are going to give this web request a parameter. And the parameters that we can go into when we're doing these web requests is we can use a filter. So if I use a $filter, I can now start to tell my web request what I want. So the structure that we follow is, what's the parameter? What is that parameter equal to? So so we're saying that we are going to put a filter into here. What do I need to filter? Let's just get back into VS Code for a moment. Let's just expand out one of my results. So what I'm interested in is, I think this deleted date, this looks really good. Because, you know, at 93 days after the file has been deleted, it's going to go bye-bye. So this is the one that I want to be using to determine whether I need to send an alert or not. So let's copy and paste that in. Again, bear in mind that often these are case sensitive. So whatever the case is that SharePoint has given you in the first place, use it. So equals deleted date. Now, we want to say where... Now, let me get this right, because I always get myself in a muddle with dates. If it's before a specific date, it's less than or equal to the date that we're thinking about. If it's after the date, it's greater than or equal to. Okay, so less than or equal to. So if I wanted to put a less than or equal to, now we can't use normal characters that we would in, for example, Power Apps or inside Excel to be able to delineate a less than or equal to. Because we are working with a HTTP request, we have to encode it. Now, if we have an equals, we have EQ. If it's less than, it's LT. If it's less than or equal to, it's LE, greater than GT, and so on. There's a video that I've got in my list called Filter Queries as Clear as Mud. Go and check that out for a little bit more of an explanation about what the filter query syntax is. But in this case, I'm just going to use my LE. So where the deleted date is less than or equal to, what's the date that I'm interested in? Let's go for, we've got the 16th of the 9th, 2024. So let's say that it's the 17th. Now we have to put this in terms of ISO standard. So year, month, day. And let's give it a timestamp as well. So T for time, and then the time in the 24-hour clock, and let's use UTC. Let's go Zulu. Now, when I first started to play with this as a flow, it was failing. Now, the reason for this is because deleted date is a date time. It will automatically assume that is a string. So we need to actually tell the query that this is also a date time that I'm interrogating it with. So if we just put the type of data that we're using here, so date time, that will then mean that the filter query understands what the information is that I'm giving it, and then can use it, and therefore it won't error. So let's go for a test. Let's go and run this as a manual. Save and test. Okay, so now it's succeeded. It's still got data back. Look, I've still got information coming out. But this time it's only brought one item back, which is the one that I'm expecting. So that's looking good. So now I've got the ability to actually change my flow, or to change my filter query to get just the data that I'm interested in. So that could be just give me a specific user. It could give me a specific date time, whatever that may be. Now the final part is, let's actually make this a little bit more parameterized. So I'm going to go and add two composers into here. I'm going to add a compose in here, which is going to be my notification age. And in there, I'm going to say, let's just go minus 24. Is that right? No, minus 23, just to be able to see that one again. So let's go minus 23 days. So what I can then do is send a HTTP request, but I need to replace that with some dynamic content. I need to figure out what the date is compared to where I am now. So let's go and add one more compose in. And let's put an add date expression in. So rename, deletion, alert date. And in here, let's use the expression add days. And we'll start with today. So let's go UTC now to take today's date and today's date and time at whatever time we're running this. And then the dynamic content. So what are we adding to today to figure it out? We're adding the notification age. Now, I'm adding the days, but I'm actually adding minus 23. So I'm saying that if a file is more than 23 days, or it was deleted 23 days or more from today in the past, making sure I get that right, then it will send out the alert. Or it will then start to retrieve that information and we can choose what we want to do with it. So now if I come back into my HTTP request and let's replace my hard-coded date with the alert date. Let's press save. Let's press test. Okay, so my notification age, minus 23. The deletion date, the 17th and the 9th, before 1431. How many items has that bought? It's bought back 2 items. Interesting. So it's bought back 2 items. The course comparison matrix and also the Microsoft Teams building blocks presentation. And if I come, what's the date time that actually gave it? So it was before the 17th and the 9th, 24 at 1431. Okay, so it's found these 2. Because this was deleted on the 17th and the 9th, 24 at 1423. So it's only a few minutes into this bracket, but you know what, it's found that data. So we can carry on now building out this flow as we need to, as we see fit in order to achieve our business goals. Whether that is just to alert a specific user, just to alert me on the files that I've deleted, or whether we actually have something that is monitoring for all of the users on the site. So we've got the tools here to be able to build that. Now, the key thing to remember is that this is currently tied to one specific SharePoint site. If I want to scale this, I could multiply it, I could copy it, I could do a save as, and then I could point a similar one at another site, which may have a different retention period on there, or a different alerting period on there. So we can we can have multiples of these flows for multiples of different sites. Alternatively, we could have a central list somewhere, whether it's a list, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it may be, of SharePoint sites that we want monitoring. We get those SharePoint sites, loop through, and effectively all we do is we replace the dynamic content into the site address, and then the other parts will then stay the same. So we can really start to scale this out. But at least that should give you the good start in terms of, number one, how to actually access the recycle bin in the first place, and some of the additional things that we can do with a HTTP request to SharePoint action, which really does unlock the full benefits of SharePoint from a Power Automate perspective. So I hope that was useful. Please do let me know if you have any questions. Please post a comment into chat. Please do contact me on LinkedIn. You can find me Matt Weston 365, or feel free to send an email. All my emails are on the channel contact information. If there is something that you want to see, or you want me to create some specific content, maybe there's a problem that you want to help you tackle, again, please do let me know and I'll be happy to help. And if it has been really useful and the content I'm posting you're enjoying and you're finding is actually adding some good value to what you do, please do give me a like and a subscribe. Make sure your notifications in your browser are turned on so that you know when I post something else. And ultimately, if you think it could help others, please do spread the love. Please do share this video with them because the more people that I can help, the happier I become. For now, I hope you all have a fantastic day and enjoy your Power Automate journey.